Hello. It is time for Art in the AM with the ABCs of art. So every Monday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern here on Creations of Studio 39, or maybe you're watching on YouTube for the replays, I have been doing a series called the ABCs of art. Today we're on the letter R. And I believe I put up in the description that we're going to be talking about realism. So I would love to know, if you're watching, live, replay, however you're watching, if you would love for your artwork to be more realistic. I'm just curious. Would you like to know some tips, because I have 3 of them today, of how to make your artwork look more realistic. We're talking about, I put realism, but kind of the direction of how do you make your artwork more realistic. So I'm going to give you 3 tips today. If this is your very first time watching, my name is Jamie. I started Creations of Studio 39 back in January of 2020 as a way to share ideas to spark you being more creative. And I haven't shared this in quite a long time, but it's on my sign that I take with me when I do live events. It's kind of like my little tagline of my business, and it is where community plus inspiration spark creativity. So this being the community of this page, the live videos, you interacting with my posts, that community, and then the inspiration that I give to you, that I'll be giving to you today about how to make your artwork more realistic, is what sparks your creativity. So those 2 things together, like being in community, around people, watching videos, like all of those things that involve other people, that's where you get your inspiration. One place where you get your inspiration, that's what sparks your creativity. And that is really why I show up here on Mondays at 10:30, almost every single week now for the past 6 years, doing a little video, a little idea. So today I'm going to show you letter R. I have been working in this watercolor journal, and last week, if you saw Q for quilt, this is probably like one of my favorite, easiest pages that I've ever done. And it took a little bit to kind of figure out the measurements and things like that. But if you did not see Q for quilt and you would like to do this fun kind of quilt with your own papers, go back and watch that one. The easiest place is to watch the replay on YouTube. So if you are not subscribing to my YouTube channel so that you get notifications of when I upload videos and things like that, just put YouTube in the comments and I will make sure, if you're watching here on Facebook, that you get that link so that you go over there and not only watch the videos, but subscribe. And, that way you get the notifications. But Q for quilt was a fun little process of making these squares and cutting them and creating these blocks. I think that that's what we decided. And then putting those together. So I have like 6 different blocks. But then I started to notice they create these other diamonds in there. Just like such a fun thing. And it was seriously so easy. Easy in the fact that it was these squares. I cut them into triangles and put them together. Like that was the easy part. Okay. In the next page, I am going to talk to you about 3 tips to make your artwork more realistic. And I don't know who it is that hi Kathy, hi Lori. I don't know who it is that I follow. Somebody that I follow, they have said this is a writer downer. So if you have some paper, if you have something to write with, these 3 tips that I'm going to share with you, these 3 words for you to remember, this is a writer downer. Because I've probably shared parts of these in different places in different videos, but these 3 tips, I'm telling you, these 3 tips, if you can remember these, you can make your artwork look more realistic. 3 words, 3 tips, and I'm going to go through and share with you in my journal here what those are. So you may not know this. I'm going to go ahead and turn my screen down here so you can see my journal and make sure that my stand doesn't move. I got a new little stand, but I couldn't figure it out yet. So I'm hoping this one just like stays where it is. So I use a Droid. Let me know in the comments, are you a Droid user or do you have an iPhone? Most people are either Apple users or Droid users. Like they use everything that's Apple or they go with the Droid things. So I use a Droid. I have a Samsung phone. That's what I'm doing the video from. And from my phone, I cannot flip the screen. So everything that you are seeing is backwards, right? So I usually work upside down and backwards. So this is my right hand side. So it's very weird. So in order to do words, which I'm going to show you these 3 words today, I use this trick, and I'm going to show you what the trick is of putting words so I don't have to flip my screen around. Lori says that she uses an iPhone. I believe that if you're on an iPhone, you can flip the screen. Like there's a little button that you can like flip, and I can do that with a Droid. Okay, ready to write this down? These are the 3 words, the 3 tips, the 3 things that I'm going to show you. And I actually have a photo that I'm going to show you that illustrates all 3 of these examples. Because, well, as I explain, you'll see why that is. But here's the first one, and then I'm going to show you my little trick. So, the word value. Value. If you can understand values, and if you can have a full range of values, and I've talked about contrast because having lights and darks are values. If you can have different values in your artwork, I am telling you, it will look more realistic if you have values. Now, here is I'm going to show you in the last word, not this one, but value. So write down value. Have a range of values from white to black or light to dark. Full range of values. The reason the artwork doesn't look realistic if you don't have a full range of values is because you don't have the contrast. And in nature, in real life, to create something that's realistic, you need to have a full range of values. So value is the first word. The next one is temperature. Temperature is basically if a color is warm or if it's cool. So temperature, I just shortened it for temp to fit it on my little card here. You want to have a full range of temperatures, colors that are warm and cool because they create contrast, like we talked about with the value. So the temperature of your artwork makes a difference in how you make it look more realistic. And here is my little trick. So this word for me is backwards. So what I had to do was write it on my piece of paper, and then I wrote it again on this side, and that's how I was able to get. So when I'm looking at these words, these are backwards, but I knew on the screen they would show up forwards for you. So Gina says she goes through Google Play. Well, there you go. The last one, this is so important if you want your artwork to look more realistic. You need to have a full range of values, light to dark. You need to have some different color temperatures in your artwork and have contrast with both of these. You need to have details. You need to have the details, and I'm going to show you an example and show you the tip that goes with details. You want to have the details, and you have to have the details in the right place. So I'm going to show you what the right place is. So these are the 3 words. These are the 3 writer-downers. Value, temperature, details. Value, temperature, details. If somebody wants to type that into the comments, those are the 3 words. Those are the things that you need to remember if you want your artwork to look more realistic. And then it's just a matter of practicing these three things, learning about these three things, about how to create different values in all the different mediums, with paint, with watercolors, with all the different mixed media. How do you create different temperature? Well, like, how do you use the temperatures of colors to make your artwork more vibrant, to make them just, temperature matters a lot, and where you place the different colors of the different temperatures. And then the details. You have to have the details, or else everything looks kind of like fuzzy or out of focus, right? And if you are really trying for realistic, you have to pay attention to the details. That does not mean that it needs to be photo realistic. It does not. You're never going to create something, because even, have you ever taken a photograph, and your photograph, even if you have the nicest camera, the nicest phone, the most up-to-date, the best resolution, like all of those things, you're never going to get it to look exactly like what you see in front of you. Like, you're never going to get 100% perfect realism, not even in a photograph, because you're trying to take something that is three-dimensional, that takes up space, that's, 3D, and you're trying to make it into something that's two-dimensional. So you're never going to get it to be completely realistic. These three things, though, they will help you to get it more realistic. So value, light and dark, and I'm going to talk in black and white, actually, because that's the highest form of contrast with values at first. And I'm going to show you the picture. And then temperature, warms and cools. It's really a good idea to have a color wheel when you're thinking about temperature, and knowing your colors and which ones are warm and which ones are cool, and how to, that's all the stuff that once you learn that, you can make your artwork look more realistic. And then the details, and how you can make the details, and where to put the details, and what should be detailed and what shouldn't, and all of those. So value, temperature, and details. Those are the three writer-downers. Those are the three words. So I have a catalog, I guess it's a catalog of Anna Maria Island. And for the most part, these are all going to be cool colors if we're talking about temperature, because there's a lot of blues and greens. If you know what the cool temperatures are, or cool colors, there are three of them, and the warm colors are, go ahead and put those in the comments while I take a drink of my coffee. I already told you two of the cool ones. So in this catalog, most of the pictures that I was looking at are mostly cool colors. You have blue, like the sky, even the shadows and things in the sand. I'll flip around so it's forward for you. Like, even the shadows and things in here are kind of like bluish colors. And you've got the greens and the turquoise. So blue and green are two of the cool colors. I already told you two of them. As I was looking through here, I was looking for a picture that showed value and temperature and details. And I found a pretty good photo that uses all three of these. And I'm going to do some kind of picture on here. I haven't even decided yet. I was so excited to share, because creating realistic art is definitely something that I have a lot of people ask me about. So I was just excited to share these three things all in one place, so that you could learn how to start making your artwork more realistic. So I haven't seen anybody type in the comments yet, but for the warm colors, if you have a color wheel, I did not bring one over here with me. It is 1/2 of the color wheel. And I always think of the warm colors as the things themselves that help me to feel warm, like the warm colors. And I always think of the sun. So yellow is a warm color. I think of flames, fire, heat. So red is another warm color, and then orange. So red, orange, and yellow are the three warm colors. And all of the colors that kind of fall beside those. And then the cool colors, I already told you, blue and green. And then the third one is violet, which, the color of my shirt here. So red, orange, yellow are the warm colors. Blue, green, violet are the cool colors. So there you go. You're already starting to learn about temperature if you did not know those. And I'll talk to you about how you can use temperature to make your artwork look more realistic. So here is the image that I found. Make sure I don't have a glare on there. And I'm just going to show you in this one, because it already has the color and everything, how all three of these things, the value, the temperature, the details, come together to make this, I think, is this an egret or an ibis? I forget. I think the ibis has like a curved beak. So I think this might be an egret. This photograph is real life, right? It's a realistic, three-dimensional, in real life photograph of this bird. The photographer used some, I wouldn't say filters, they just knew how to take photos to play with the value, the temperature, and the details in the photograph. So this photograph is definitely somebody who understands those things, and they created with their camera using, I don't even remember all of the different things that you can do with the camera to make it look more realistic and really to draw your attention to the bird. Because that is a lot of times another, I guess, like little bonus tip. If you want to draw attention to the subject of whatever it is that you're creating, using all three of these things to your advantage will help too. So let's talk about the first thing, which is values. And I didn't put this into black and white, but I think because the bird is white, you can kind of get this idea. If you want your paintings, anything to be more realistic, think about using value to your advantage. So this bird is white. Everything around the bird is a version of a gray. If I was to put this in black and white, right? It's a different value. This is the whitest white. Everything else, even the lighter parts in the background here, they're a different value of the whole range. So the white of the bird stands out. Your eye draws to the bird because it's white. It's the whitest white on this picture. So maybe even the photographer, bumped up the value so it was even a brighter white than it really showed up in the photograph. And that's how you can use those things to your advantage, like kind of emphasize them or exaggerate them a little bit. So when you want to make something more realistic, have whatever is closest to you be the lightest value. That might be a writer downer too. Besides the three words, whatever's closest to you, make it the lightest value. Like here, I'm going to turn my camera up here for a second, because I think most people can understand this when they think about their face. So if you were to reach out to my face, and the thing that is closest to you, that is sticking out the most, would be the tip of my nose. It would be the tip of my nose would be sticking out farthest, right? If you're looking from the side of a face, that's what sticks out the most. In a portrait where you're doing the front of a face, the tip of the nose should probably be the lightest value of anything that you have on your painting. That little tip of the nose right there, that little round part of the nose, because it's coming forward. Now, when you're like looking just at the camera, you might not see that, but when you're creating, you can exaggerate that and know, because that's coming forward, because that's in front, because that's the closest to you, it should be the lightest value. That doesn't necessarily mean white, right? Because your face has color, but anything that you are creating, whatever is in front, whatever is closest to the front of the painting, whatever you want to come forward, whatever you want to look closest, whatever is maybe the focal point, make that the lightest value. And I'm telling you, your paintings are gonna, they're gonna look more realistic. Okay, so let me show you back to the bird. Hi there, Sandy. Oh, thank you, Gina. I see Lori typed hers in all caps. So that way we can see all three of those words. So whatever is closest to you, make it the lightest value, like this bird here. And everything else around it is a darker value. And that doesn't mean black, right? These, blues and greens and things, that they just aren't the brightest white. So that's how you can use value. Anything that's closest to you would be the lightest light. And I might take, and I don't know if I'm going to recreate this bird, like what I'm going to put on here, but I just thought that this was a good example of all three of these things. So the next thing is temperature. And even though this bird is white and there's not a color, I did want to have you notice the eye. The eye is yellow. So that's one of the warm colors. When you're creating something, and this might not always be the case, but if you are trying to figure out how to separate like your focal point, whatever you want the eye to be drawn to, from the background, if you can make things in your focal point, in your subject, whatever you want to be in the front, one of the warm colors or a combination of the warm colors, and the background, the cool colors, let me just tell you, your things are going to be so much more realistic. So there's another writer downer. Warm colors in the front, cool colors in the back. I mean, if you remember that, and if you can intentionally do that, you will start to have your artwork look more realistic. Think about, again, a face. If you want the face to be the focal point, it's going to be mainly oranges and peaches and flesh tones, and those are all warm colors, yellows, but then in maybe the shadows of the face, the places that are farther away, maybe those start to get into some of the cooler colors. But then in the background around the face, have some cool colors around there. And you're going to see your artwork look more realistic. The more that you learn how to use temperature and make things in the front be warmer colors, you're going to have your artwork look more realistic. This one I thought was a great example of the third word, which is details. So look how detailed the bird is. I mean, the details around the eye, the details in the beak and the feathers and the legs, and all of those things in that bird. But look how the photographer blurred out the background. The background around the bird is not detailed. It's out of focus. This is in focus. This is out of focus back here. I'm telling you what, if you can do that and you can make the things, every time I touch that, that's why I got a new stand, because I need for it to stand still a little bit more. But anytime that you can make the things in the front more detailed, that's where you add the detail. You want it to be more in focus. Think about, I didn't pull one out of here, but I think that you can probably picture like mountains. In the front, the mountains that are closest to you, the things that you would see first if you were walking towards the forest, the trees that would be first, those are more detailed. And as you go back and get farther and you want to create that appearance of like distance, they get less detailed. They're blurry. They're just a less detail, like it's just like kind of a blob, and you don't see like all of the details. I really think about it as being like out of focus. It's farther away. I'm nearsighted. That's how I kind of see anyway. The things that are closest to me are more detailed. The things that are farther away, they're out of focus. And if you can create your focal point so it's more detailed, you're adding the details there, and leave the things in the back or the edges or those are less detailed, you're going to create something that looks more realistic, because that's how your eye sees. It sees the things that are closest to you more detailed, and you can see more of the details. Even if you're not nearsighted, you're farsighted, I guess is the other. It's still, because of the atmosphere, the things that are farther away, you're just not going to see as many details, even if you are farsighted, right? So, oh, yes, Cindy says that you can use the portrait. I love using that, like blurring the background. So that's exactly using that, like the values and the details, and a lot of times even the temperature of the colors, it's going to feel warmer up in the front, closest to you, than the things in the back. So, hey there, Wanda. Oh yes, Sandy needs to go mow the grass before it starts raining. Yeah, it's looking a little cloudy and overcast here too. So I am definitely going to create something in my journal for the those 3 words. But when you can learn more about value, the light and the darks, the temperature, the warms and the cools, and then the details and how to create depth by having more details in the front and less in the back, and creating that out of focus, you're like those 3 things. If you can do those 3 things, you're going to have things look more realistic, because with value comes creating form and creating things that look more 3D. With temperature is mixing colors and creating colors that just have more depth, because you can decide whether they're warm or cool, by how you mix the colors together. And then just learning how to do the details is really probably what most people think of. How do I create something that's more realistic? Is just learning how to add the details. So those 3 things, if you can intentionally start learning more about those 3 things, you're going to be so much better off than someone who tries to take something and look at it and, I don't want to say copy it, but try to reproduce it. Like if you have a vase of flowers, if you have a painting of somebody else's that you're trying to recreate, sometimes if you're trying to do that without the knowledge of the values and the temperature and the details, you'll get frustrated. Like, tell me if you've ever just gotten frustrated because you're trying to recreate something, but you don't understand the foundation of why and know how to manipulate your materials following the values and the temperature and the details. You're going to get frustrated at some point because you don't know the foundation of how to accomplish what it is that you want to make, to replicate, reproduce whatever it is that you're trying to do. So I hope that is helpful, because I would say that this is one of the things that so many people get frustrated about, is not knowing the foundation of these things. And that was really a lot of what I taught in the art class. It wasn't about being creative as much as it was knowing the foundational things so that then you could you could use them to your advantage and then create with them, right? The being creative part, yes, the way that you put things together is creative, but you have to know the foundation. You have to understand color. You have to know how to mix. You have to understand about value and creating form and knowing the temperature of colors and the color wheel and all of those basics. So many people think that art is about the creative part when there's so much more to it. There really is. And I hope that doing this ABCs of art and bringing up some of these things is teaching you a little bit more about those foundational things and knowing those, so then you can go create what it is that you want because you have that knowledge, that foundation. So that was the letter R for realism, and I will definitely share what it is that I put in my journal. But I was so excited to pass on this information that the inspiration will come later when I create it in my journal. But I will add this to the playlist on YouTube. If you are watching here on Facebook, or if you're watching the replay on YouTube, there is a playlist of all of the ABCs of art videos that I've been doing in 2026. If you wanted to kind of go through and see all of those, they're about like 25 to 35 minutes, and each one of them have just a little spark for your creativity, and hopefully a little bit more than that too. So I will see you next Monday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern for the letter S. And I don't remember right off what the letter S is. I usually don't look that far ahead. So I will see you then.